Welcome back, student, for a short video on the external feature of the pons. You know the pons is a part of the brain stem, okay? And here, this area, as we have seen already, is the pons area. Now the pons above is continuous with that of the midbrain and below it is continuous with that of the medulla. It consists of the two surface, this ventral surface or the basal surface, and another surface of the pons is there which is in relation to the cavity, that is the fourth ventricle. You see here in this mid-sagittal section of the brain, what you are seeing, this is the pons, which is its ventral surface, and this is its dorsal or posterior surface of the pons is here, which forms the upper part of the floor of the fourth ventricle. This cavity is the fourth ventricle, and thus the posterior surface of the pons will form the upper part of the floor of the fourth ventricle. So this is the basilar or the anterior surface, and this is dorsal or the posterior surface of the pons. If you will see the ventral surface or basilar surface of the pons, then what we will get, that pons is a bulging and it is convex from above downward, that is from tracing it from midbrain towards the medulla, as well as it is convex from side to side. And here on the surface of this, there is a midline groove is seen here. See this with the pen. I am trying to show you the midline groove in which lies this artery, and this artery which is partly broken here, but I kept just to show you this artery. And this lies in the groove on the ventral aspect of the pons, and this artery is called as the basilar artery, and that is the reason why this midline groove of the pons on this aspect is called as the basilar groove. If you will see the ventral surface, okay, then you will see that many multiple ridges are traveling towards that of the lateral side, and if you, these ridges will ultimately converge onto a rope or bundle of the thick bundle of the white matter here, as you are seeing. This is just collecting here, and this is known as the middle cerebral peduncle. See this, where I am just putting the tip of the pen here. This is called as the middle cerebellar peduncle, which is going into the cerebellum, okay, on either side. At the junction of the pons and the middle cerebellar peduncle, there will come out a nerve, and this nerve is the fifth nerve or the trigeminal nerve. On either side it will be doing so. So this will be the demarcation. Emergence of this fifth cranial nerve, the trigeminal, will limit, that is medial to it is pons and lateral to it is the middle cerebellar peduncle is there. At the lower margin of pons, at its junction with that of the medulla, as I told you in the last video also, there is the attachment of the sixth cranial nerve abducent, seventh cranial nerve facial, and in the pontomedullary angle, there is the attachment of the nerve called as the vestibulocochlear or eighth nerve. So the pons is related to the three nerve at its lower border and one at its junction with the middle cerebellar peduncle. Now, if we see the posterior surface, which I said that is only possible after detaching that of the cerebellum here, then in this half of the section you can see some of the floor of the which is the posterior surface of the pons, which is forming the wall of the ventricle, okay, the floor of the ventricle. Better I will show you the posterior surface of the pons with the help of the diagram from my book, okay. Let us see here. If we go to the book here and I show you this posterior surface, let me search where is the diagram for the floor. Okay, this is the theoretical diagram which you are seeing here. Just zoom your diagram, okay, and then you can see this is the stria medullaris, or that region which separate above is pons and below is medulla. We have to see above this, okay. So you will see that in the upper part of this, okay, stria, medullaris is the transverse ridges. Here you will see this is the part of the pons which forms the floor of the fourth ventricle. Okay, so these are the two rounded swelling called as the facial colliculi or facial colliculus singular. And then what you will see, there is a large area here extending into the pons as well as into the medulla called as the vestibular, that we will learn when we will learn to the fourth ventricle. But this is the real picture, see it carefully, and from this real picture which you have to zoom and then see it. Okay, what you will see that this much stria medullaris is here, see this, that means above this is the pons, the posterior surface or dorsal surface of the pons, and then here you are seeing the bulging facial colliculi, and then nothing much is seen here, but it forms the floor, and below this was the medulla which we have already learned. Okay, so this is possible to see the floor of fourth ventricle formed by the pons and upper half of medulla only after removal of the cerebellum by cutting the three cerebellar peduncle from each of these lobes. Thank you very much for seeing the external feature on the ventral and dorsal surface of the pons. Our next video will be the external surface of the midbrain, which is the uppermost part of the brain stem.